it's been a while,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving episode had a little bit of issues getting onto my phone, and you know, y'all see that eventually, but you know,
Hmm.
not now.
Not now. Yep.
And I finally got an assistant to help me with some of this work, so
My sister.
um, so there'll be a lot more consistency with the episodes, and going forward in the future. But crazy week in the week we skipped doing a recap.
It could have been any of the other weeks, and we decided to do one of the most important weeks.
I mean, you just can't predict it, can you?
Nope.
College football's been crazy this year.
Well, let's talk about the first game to recap. That crazy was it 8 overtime game for Georgia versus
Cool.
Georgia Tech.
And I was kind of ashamed that the Georgia Tech couldn't pull it out.
Dude, I felt so bad for Haynes King. I felt so bad for him, man.
You wish you would have had him on last Saturday. I'm just kidding. I'm
We'll
just
get
kidding.
we'll get to that later.
I'm
But
just kidding.
thanks, Ethan. Thanks for rubbing it in. Just in case if y'all didn't know, Haynes King used to be the quarterback at A&M, and then he didn't do so well, and then he decided to transfer. And now he's at Georgia Tech, and man, I felt extremely. I mean, he was getting beat up too. He was
Dude, he was, yeah. They're
he
having
was
him run
taking
the
some
ball.
hits.
They're having him run the ball a lot.
Yeah,
Um, it was really a shame that they couldn't pull it out. They got a pass interference call.
yeah.
I think it was the fourth or fifth overtime where they could have scored on the 1 yard line, and
Mm-hmm.
the offensive coordinator just a lot of offensive coordinator blunders recently. You
Well, I
know,
think it was the fourth quarter. They just tried to run the quarterback up the middle, and I think they stripped the ball out of King's hands, and they were able to get the turnover. I
yeah.
think that's what I saw.
Haynes King is the player that your dad likes to watch. He's gritty. He plays fundamental football.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a really good player. Yeah,
he plays fundamental football.
yeah,
He plays football like he went to the SEC, like he went to an SEC school.
right. Well, and Georgia Tech's always been like a run heavy style kind of team, so it only makes sense that King is a natural born runner. That he went to Georgia Tech, and he's put on some muscle. I tell you that. He's definitely put on some size, but he still has his speed. And man, for until the fourth quarter kind of unraveled, and then the 8 overtimes, he was having a really good game. I mean, their offense was answering the bell like that against the dog defense. Man, they were
Yeah.
doing really good.
In the post game interview, you can just tell how beat up he was from not winning that game.
Yeah,
Um,
man, you hate to see that when players get emotional like that. That just sucks.
you
That's
love that. Everybody, I think everybody in the country loves Haynes King,
yeah,
and his Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
yeah. Well, I mean, look where he's brought them to. You know,
Definitely been a program changing player.
to begin the season, he beat Florida. He beat number 10 Florida State. Obviously, Florida State didn't have the year that they were hoping for, but
1-9. Or
but
actually, I think they won 2 games. Woohoo!
yeah, but and King was he was kind of under the radar, kind of throughout most of the year because they had their other quarterback step in. That helped them win against Miami, which was their biggest win of the season. Um, but no, he gritted it out. I got some team stats. Uh, Tech had 563 yards of total
Wow.
offense. I don't remember. I can't remember a time a Kirby Smart defense led up over 500 yards of total offense.
And, I think the game was like in the 40s at the very end.
Yeah.
It was a very high scoring game. And, that's something you don't see Georgia get into a whole lot.
Mm-mm.
I
Yeah.
think, Carson Beck played great again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and like we said, Georgia Tech is like they've like in their history they've always been more of like a power run kind of team.
Triple option, yeah.
Yeah, and they had 303 on the ground. Well, sorry, they had 303 passing yards, and then they rushed for 260.
That
And
was
they
a
averaged basically 6.7 yards per play.
That was a complete offensive show
Yeah,
by Brent Key and his staff and the Georgia Tech players. I think they're a playoff sleeper next year.
I do too. Well, and what's really shocking, even though the score didn't indicate anything for them, Georgia only had 405 yards of offense, which is really good. But compared to 563 passing yards, they only had two. They had 297. Rushing, they barely. Well, they had 108, but that's not a whole
That's
lot.
uncharacteristic from a Georgia team that's
I know.
produced amazing running backs.
Tech really dominated the time of possession. They had the ball for 37 minutes, and Georgia had the ball for 22 minutes.
Yeah, that's. I think Georgia Tech should have won that game. That one really got away from them.
Yeah. Well, with all those 2 point conversions, I mean, man, there were watching that game. There were so many opportunities that Tech could have won. I mean, and their defense, those overtimes that they got the stops when Georgia had to go for two first, they got several stops on those. If they would just punched it in, man, that could have been it.
Dude, that could have been program changing for them if they got that win.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, I think they have a lot of reason to hope next year.
yeah. I think they're going to be a really. I mean, they showed a lot of. They showed of what they can be in the future, and I like their head coach. I like the kind of grittiness that he's brought to their program, and I think they could be a real ACC threat next year.
Of course, when you're hanging in there with one of the best teams in the country.
I know there's nothing to hang your hat on about that. They nearly ruined Georgia's season because if you think about it, if Georgia would have lost to Georgia Tech, they would have to win this week, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But they would have had to win this week against Texas to get into the playoffs. That was a really good win for Georgia. Tough loss for Georgia Tech. Quick note: did you know they actually changed the overtime rules a couple of years ago because when A&M played LSU back in 2018, it went to 7 overtimes and it
It's
was just
getting worse.
yeah. I think there was 100 and it was like 170 plays that were played in that game total.
There was a lot of talent that played in that game too.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's your number one pick and Heisman winner Joe Burrow played in that game.
you had Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. You had a ton of guys, but I digress. I'm trying to get all my good Aggie talk out because I know what happened last weekend and I don't want to remember it. So, but moving on, let's talk about probably the upset of the week. Michigan going to Columbus, Ohio, and knocking off then the number two Buckeyes of the Ohio State.
The Ohio State.
The
The
Ohio.
Ohio State cannot put the ball in the end zone.
Ethan, I just want to say this for a second. Ryan Day, in my opinion, probably has not probably he has one of the most talented rosters in all of college football. You look at their offense, they're stacked. Defensively, their defensive line is, I mean, NFL talent across the board. Secondary, they have Caleb Downs. And the fact that this team scored only 10 points against Michigan, I believe that's their lowest. I can't remember the last time Ohio State scored only 10 points in a game.
It's stupid.
Um, and Ryan Day, his last win against Michigan was when he had Justin Fields back in 2019. Because remember, they didn't play in 2020 because of COVID, but the other 2021 it was Michigan, 22 it was Michigan, 23 now 20, that's 4 years in a row. Um,
Man, that Jim Harbaugh staff knows how to dominate Ryan Day.
well, and this time it's Sharon Moore. He's actually undefeated against Ohio State as a head coach.
Yeah, and this doesn't make any logical sense. That game defied all statistics, all
Yeah.
logic, all everything you could have known about football in that game. All the signs would have pointed to Ohio State.
Well, and when I first saw that score over the weekend, I really thought Ohio State was in trouble for their playoff bid. I really did. Because Now it's Penn State and Oregon for the Big Ten championship, so Ohio State can't have that advantage if
Yeah, we'll
they
get to
thought
that
that they
game
were.
even later.
I know that if they thought they were going to win the Big Ten, that's gone. And then you have all these other teams like SMU, Boise State, Texas, Oregon, Penn State. Um, and, I was thinking about this earlier. Even if Ohio State gets into the playoffs, whatever team that Ohio State plays, they're going to be a dadgum really good football team. And I'm just afraid Ohio State. I don't
just
know. I
and the playoff standings are kind of. I just don't like the way they're set up right now. There's some teams that don't deserve to be there,
yeah,
and we'll get to that even later.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and for Ryan Day, I wouldn't say fire him
no, it's
because look, I mean that's what everybody says, or that's what everybody thinks when like you lose to your big rival and you haven't beaten them in 4 years. But that's that's not the responsible thing to do. I mean, Ohio State's 10-2, but you could also argue that maybe their strength of schedule isn't as good as maybe than a lot of other people's. But I mean, they're still a 10-2 team, and their only other loss was to number one Oregon by 1 point on the road. So um, it's not a bad season whatsoever. They're still 10-2, but just the talent, the roster, the coaches that they have down there, the recruiting resources that they have down there, um, and for them to come up empty-handed like that against their rival, it's not it. Ooh, they're
and
gonna get some heat from that.
I'd like to bring up a statistic that I saw that Ryan Day in his 4 year tenure is 45-1 against non-Michigan State opponents.
You mean Michigan?
Non-Michigan opponents, Michigan
Yeah.
State. They kill Michigan State. Non-Michigan opponents. In the Big Ten, which is, you know, it really proves how average of a coach Ryan Day is. I think Ryan Day, he is not an exceptional coach. Great coaches do great things with their resources. He has not done anything great. He's not won a national championship. He's won a few Big Ten titles against cupcake teams, you know, and rightfully so that Michigan has owned them. Um, Ryan Day cannot get the job done.
I don't think he's a bad coach.
I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's an average coach.
Obviously, he can obviously recruit really well, but
Yeah, but you're Ohio State. The program's going to take you.
it's a
That
national
that just
brand.
that just that name alone is going to get you a lot
Yeah.
of recruits.
I mean, it's a national brand. I mean, just like Texas, just like Georgia, just like Alabama. You
Who
know,
doesn't want to go to Ohio State when you got athletes like LeBron James endorsing them?
but like, I mean, he's not a bad coach. I mean, remember a couple of 2020. I know that was a COVID year, but I mean, he took him to a national championship and lost to Alabama. That was their only loss of the year, But
Yeah, and when you have Justin Fields, a phenomenal quarterback, um, and I think his QB play has been a lot. He hasn't been able to find his next Justin Fields. Um,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, if you think of the past two quarterbacks he's had, at least in recent history, he had Kyle McCord and Will Howard, and I don't know who it was in that third 2021 season.
it was CJ. It was CJ
CJ
Stroud.
Stroud. CJ Stroud. Rookie of the year, number 2 overall pick.
Yeah,
I don't know how I forgot about him.
I was about to say I don't know how you can forget about CJ Stroud.
It's just, you know, they just CJ Stroud. I think that one year Ohio State had that year where the kicker shanked the kick against Georgia, and they had every chance to win. I think they could have had a national championship team there if it weren't for the kicker. But don't always blame the kicker. Those guys are trying their hardest. I promise.
Gosh darn it!
Those dang kickers.
Those dang kickers with only
Um,
50 yards off the left hash, with like tens of thousands of people screaming against you.
C.J. Stroud, great quarterback.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, great quarterback, but the past 2 years of quarterback play have not been exceptional.
Well, and I would say like Will Howard isn't a bad quarterback, but he's not. Um,
They're not Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud level.
I would say he doesn't have the raw like he's athletic obviously, but I don't think he has the raw athleticism that both of those guys had. He's definitely a strong passer.
You know, and C.J. Stroud was really, really smart. He was really, really accurate.
Right.
Um, for what he lacked in his athleticism, his arm practically had everything.
Yeah. Well, if well, here's some stats from the game. So Ohio State actually had more total yards than Michigan. They had them 252 to 234. Passing yards, Ohio State owned them. They had 175, and Michigan only had 62 passing yards, which Michigan hasn't been the best passing team really this season.
Davis Warren threw 2 picks,
I know. And
no touchdowns.
story for Michigan, they rushed for 172, and Ohio State didn't even rush for 100. They rushed for 77 yards.
Was Donovan Edwards the main rusher in that game?
That's a good question. He had 4 carries for 11 yards, but didn't have a touchdown. No, I think
That's
it
that's
was it
very
was
yeah that's very
Mullings.
disappointing for someone of his caliber of talent.
Yeah, Mullings had the only touchdown. That's inside the red zone.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that game was just ugly.
yeah, it was yeah.
In Michigan, they win ugly football games because they play ugly.
Yeah.
They
Well, and
they
I believe
beat
Will
you,
Howard threw 2 picks in that game too, so that also. But so did Michigan. Michigan had 2 turnovers too, so that kind of
and
balances it out there. But
the Thanksgiving episode that y'all didn't see, I gotta applaud Jack for doing a really good job on that prediction of Michigan keeping it close.
yeah, he did a really good job.
I don't know if he said they would keep it close at halftime, but he made the best prediction out of the three of us.
Yeah.
So shout out Jack.
Oh, speaking of that, how about that fight at the end?
It's just, it's sad.
That's just so sad to see. I mean,
And everybody, that planting of the flag on the field. I blame Baker Mayfield on doing that all those years ago, ironically against Ohio State.
like there. I mean, there's no need to do that.
But there was a good thing that happened. I saw a clip of a bunch of players praying during the fight, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. But no, there. I mean, you don't need to be planting your flag on someone else's. That's just rude. Like that's
Very
just
classless. Jack Sawyer, I think, was one of the ones that started the fight with the Michigan players. You
yeah,
know, and it was since it was rivalry week last week. Everybody was having beef. I swear I saw like 3 or 4 fights.
yeah. Well, it just doesn't. I don't know. It like planting your flag on someone else's logo, especially on their home turf. That just shows that you don't have any respect for them. And I get it's a rivalry, but at the end of the day, like, can you just like be good, genuine human beings, and after the game's over, like just
The
you
game,
know go say
like
good, just say good game to maybe a couple of guys, and then just go about your business. Like you don't need to be doing that. That's just not
you already proved your point by winning the game.
right. And there's no and again like you said, Baker did that a couple of years ago. Which he started something and it needs to end. But yeah.
He's I have to applaud him now. He's matured a lot more than he was back in college,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah,
um I think he started, I think he was the person who started that.
yeah.
And it's this is not healthy for college athletics, all this fighting. And
No,
what the funny thing was is that entire fight was stopped with pepper spray.
was it really?
Yeah, some cop sprayed pepper spray.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I saw. So one clip I saw was when the fight was really starting to get out of hand, and the policemen and the coaching staffs from either team were trying to separate the players from each other. Um, I think it was. I don't know which Michigan player it was, but I think I saw one of the Michigan players grab the Michigan flag and try and like plant it down again. and there was a second fight that happened after that. And I'm just like, dude, like you know what, you know why you know why that fight started. So don't get that started again.
And
Like,
Michigan has some leadership there. There's
yeah,
a guy who acknowledged it was wrong. Colston Loveland, one of their best players. Or I think it was Colston Loveland or Mason Graham that acknowledged, guys, this is wrong.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we did,
Anyways, that fight was just it was sad to see, and but like, hey, Michigan, they won the game. They're 7-5. They got a chance to go to a bowl game. They get to 8-5. And quite honestly, I didn't think Michigan. Like, I honestly thought that they might be close to not making even a bowl game, in my opinion. Just the way that
yeah,
they were.
yeah, and that's heck of a job by Sharon Moore and his staff.
Yeah, yeah, he's done a really good job since Harbaugh left.
And he's obviously not going to do the best after losing Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, and
Mm-mm.
others.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it happens.
Going back to some SEC, South Carolina going on the road and beating Clemson.
Dude, I love the South Carolina team.
Oh, and Shane Beamer, I saw on social media, he actually got the SEC Coach of the Year. He deserves it.
What he's been able to do with that team is really incredible. And
It really
saying
is.
Lenore Sellers really showed off who he was in that game. 150 yards passing, 150 yards rushing.
Yeah. Well, and like think about this too, Ethan. Like at the be- at the beginning of the season, South Carolina wasn't even like thought to be a dangerous team. Like, and I say that because I don't think a lot of people knew what South Carolina was going to look like this season. I didn't certainly know what they were going to look like. They had a lot of close calls early in the season, by losing to LSU at home in overtime. Um, but they're a really good team, and that Lenore Sellers, he's coming back, and
He's only a freshman, I think.
yeah, he's real. I would argue that you better watch out for South Carolina next year. Obviously, they have a ball. If they finish the year 10-3, that'll be the first time they get to 10 wins since 2013.
I think they should be in the playoff.
Well, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, I agree. I think they should have had a bid.
Gosh
Man,
dang it,
going
Alabama.
into next year, I would be extremely worried about South Carolina because, man, they're a dangerous team.
Yeah, great job to Shane Beamer and his guys.
And then for Clemson,
Like, what happened?
it's
Not a bad loss whatsoever.
no,
And
but like they now for them, if they want to get to the playoffs, they have to beat SMU, and that's going to be a tall task because we know what SMU's been able to do. Clemson still, I think, has a path to the playoffs, but I think they're going to need some help maybe along the way, and they definitely need to beat SMU because if they don't beat SMU, then I don't think there's no way they're making the playoffs.
and there's a debate for SMU right now to even be in the playoffs because they're easier schedule. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we're gonna have our they'll be put to the test this week because they play Clemson. So if they beat Clemson, then I
no
think that
excuse.
they would be deserving to be in there. Clemson's not a bad team,
No, no, no,
and they
no, no.
haven't been. I mean,
South
sure,
Carolina is just
Dabo's had a couple of teams that maybe didn't meet some people's expectations over the years, but I mean, the dude's won two national championships. He's been to, let's see, I believe he's been to three. So he's won two out of the three, I believe.
and he's been a really good coach.
Yeah,
If you want Dabo fired, I don't know. Like, is Dabo's? I mean, he's a great man, a great character, great coach.
yeah. He's a great coach. I've always admired him and Clemson just because I think he's done a really good job, and he's been there since 2008. So that also says something.
Loyalty, something that's hard to find in this era of college football.
Yeah,
Lots of people entered the transfer portal this week too, from what I saw.
yeah, yeah. And we'll also get to that too.
Whew.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
that's
can't cover all of that. That's
that's
a
been a
lot.
long list. There have been a lot of transfers. Especially there's been a lot in the quarterback room. Hey, hats off to South Carolina. That was a big win for them on the road. They get to 9-3, first 9-win season since 2017. Congrats to them, and we'll see what they do. We'll see what kind of bowl game they make. I bet they make a New Year's Six. They have to.
And hats off for there not being a fight. I think.
I didn't see one.
So hats off to that being one of the most peaceful rivalry games ever. I know, I know, I know.
Let's. I'm actually gonna have I'm gonna share a couple of opinions that I have for this game. So, obviously, we all know Texas went down to College Station and took care of business against A&M 17-7. Um, man, that was just unbelievable. I mean,
It just got away from you, didn't it?
I mean, okay. Here's what I don't understand. We kept on running the same inside zone play, inside run play every first or second down, and we wouldn't get anything. I get that we lost one of our best backs, but you got to be able to adapt what you have with your personnel and who you have. And so we keep doing that all game. And then we had, let's see, so we had the interception that went for a touchdown. We had the fumble that we got, couldn't turn that into points. We had the block punt, I'll get to that in a second. So we blocked the punt. And then on 4th and goal, we decided to run up the middle against.
Run the dang ball!
Well, we decided to run the middle against one of the best, maybe, defenses in the entire country for the season. We just decided to run it inside when it hasn't been working all night on 4th and goal.
Run the dang ball!
And if we would have scored, it would have been a field goal game. Well, guess what? We decide to run up the middle, and we get stuffed. We don't get the ball back again, and we lose the game. I couldn't tell you how ticked off I was. That was one of the worst offensive play calling I'd ever seen. No offense to Coach Klein. I think he's still a really good coach. But I mean, I just don't get it. And it's not the first week we've seen this either. Like,
Texas continues to do that stuff.
Well, and going into the game, we knew A&M cannot get into those 3rd and long situations on 3rd down. What did we do? Get in those 3rd and long situations on 3rd down. Like, you can't set yourself up for failure like that. Like, when you're facing a team that's that good, you can't do that. Anyways, my rant's over. Oh, by the way, I was at the game. It was one of the best environments ever in Kyle Field. But I want to say this. Those refs in the first half were terrible. Awful. I'm not trying to say that the refs were bad or anything, but I kind of am. But
I don't even think I saw the first half of the game, or I don't remember it. It was not very memorable for me.
There were several holding calls that they didn't call on Texas. There was one play where there were 2 defenders hit one of our receivers at the same time, and it sure did look like, from what we saw, that the helmet was literally lunging at, like, he was using his head to hit the other guy in the helmet.
I couldn't tell.
Well, but like if you looked at the replay and if you heard it in real life too, you would have thought it was targeting. He was lunging with his head. There was no shoulder, none. It was straight on with the head.
And these players think they're invincible with these helmets, bro. Like, stop,
Right.
make helmets worse.
Yeah, we lost the game. It sucked, and
No.
we gotta live with it now for what
A
is
year.
it? 362 or 350, something like that. I don't know.
Now you get to blow out Baylor in the Texas Bowl.
Wouldn't that be something? And imagine if we lose because our offense can't score. We didn't score any points against Texas on offense.
We got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. No, I'm just kidding. Big 12 is the quarterback conference this year. We'll say that.
But anywho, yeah, Texas went on to win by 10. They're in the SEC championship now, first year in the league. Kind of makes me sick, but
You never thought Texas would be good again.
it is what it is.
It's one of those bad dreams that you want to wake up from.
Well, I mean, just listen to this. Texas had 458 yards of total offense. They passed for 218 yards. They rushed for 240, and they averaged 5.9 yards per play. A&M, total yards of offense, 248. Passing yards, they had 146. Rushing, barely 100. They had 102. And then yards per play, they averaged 4.4 yards per play.
Yeah, no, just the offense definitely very dysfunctional offense, but y'all's defense is still good.
Yeah, we're good, but we've been inconsistent the past couple of weeks.
Marcel Reed is coming back for another season.
Yeah,
Y'all should be very happy with what y'all have.
yeah, and I mean this year for A&M, like we knew that we had a brand new head coach who, it takes a while to build a program. It doesn't just take 1 year. I still think Elko is he's a fantastic coach. He knows A&M well. He was a DC when Jimbo was a head coach. They had another great recruiting class coming in this recruiting cycle, so I think A&M's they're gonna be a really good program.
That's A&M. I mean, y'all have had optimism in the past, but I think this is really, I think Elko's the right man for the job.
I do too. I love how he talks. Like he talks about he doesn't just talk about we need to do this. He he rolls up his sleeves and says, "This is our plan for us to go do this. In order for us to go do this, we got to go do this." And he speaks on his word. Like he
He's
doesn't.
very smart, very academic.
Yeah,
Coaching at Duke for a while will do that.
yeah. Like he's clearly on a mission. Um,
And Texas, on the other hand, huge win for them.
yeah.
Shout out to a guy I had geometry class with. Shout out to Quintravious Wisner.
Golly, that guy he ran us over. Oh my gosh.
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
And you probably don't remember me, but I'll shout you out anyway because I played ball with you. So I blocked for your little brother too.
Conley, Mr. Conley native.
He's a traitor, kind of. He went to DeSoto, but I'll take it. He went to Conley for 3 years. I'll take it. He's insanely talented.
Yeah.
That Texas running back room is gonna have some questions next year.
I think that's a really good question because remember because they lost C.J. Baxter who was one of the best last year in the Big 12 to a knee injury or something, and Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner stepped up, so they got some talent.
And Trey wasn't even highly recruited. He was only a 3-star out of high school.
Yeah. Well, he looks really good running. I tell you that.
Yeah, and he's only 6. Yeah, he's only 6 foot, 200 pounds. So he's no bigger than me.
As long as you run hard and you're just able to take off and run people over.
As a comparison, as Isaiah Pacheco does in the NFL, you got to run angry.
In what I find just fascinating about today's game, whether you play like running back or let's even say linebacker or whatever position you play, let's just take running back for example. Running back, that position has evolved, it's evolved into it's really interesting because you used to think of a running back as like a power back basically, back in the old days, 200 and maybe 40-pound running back or 220. Now
Straight
it's
down
good
the
to have
middle.
those power backs obviously because you need those, but nowadays you got running backs who like Wisner who's 200 pounds, but he can deliver a blow. And as long as you run hard, Isaiah Pacheco in the NFL, he's not the biggest guy. Devon A. Chain, he's not the biggest guy.
They're running angry.
Yeah, they just yeah.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. Running angry.
And then for like linebackers, like the traditional linebacker is 240 or 50 pounds and just big meathead and you know just hit the crap out of people. But
Yeah, you're
nowadays,
seeing.
it's more of like a um, they're more like definitely way more like not that the previous linebackers back in the day weren't athletic, but they're more used in different ways. They're not just used for just stopping the run. They're used for coverage. They're leaner.
And something I've seen recently is that coaches are moving receivers to linebackers. Um, I remember Baylor coach Matt Rule did it with a receiver. I don't know if you remember the name Blake Lynch. Um, he played linebacker for Baylor and he was recruited as a wide receiver. We're seeing a lot more of those offensive players make transitions to defense, and we're seeing a lot better athletes than we used to.
Well, and like I think it's good because when me and you played in middle school, they had you playing both sides of the ball,
Yeah,
just to see like what your fit might be, and I think just playing those different positions, it helps. It just like it does something to you athletically. It gives you different movement patterns. It gives you different speed patterns. It just I don't know. It's just your body develops, athletically.
yeah.
When I was in middle school, high school, I was originally a receiver, and then I switched to defense, and I was basically an outside. I was an outside linebacker. You never know.
Yeah, players are getting more and more athletic. I think we're going to start seeing more and more two-way players like Travis Hunter.
Can it take a toll on your body? Yeah,
Of course. Anything you do
but
athletically
anything you
takes a
do can
toll on
take a
your
toll
body.
on your body.
When a baseball pitcher throws a fastball, it takes a lot of toll on his elbow. There's
Yeah,
risks with anything you do athletically.
yeah. Now let's get to this week. So recap is all good.
That was a long recap. Good
Conference
luck,
championship
Allison, with the
games this
video.
week.
This week, conference championships.
Yeah.
We've made it a long way, haven't we?
Let's talk about the SEC championship. Georgia versus Texas.
Yeah, very interesting game. Texas has played an easier schedule, and Georgia has played one of the hardest schedules in the country.
Texas is a 2.5 point favorite.
I think that's about fair.
Ooh, are you going Texas?
I think that no, but when it's those spreads like that, it means it's practically even.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't give someone a 1 point spread.
No. What I've always It's extremely hard to play a team twice in one season
And win.
because you know the weaknesses and you know the strengths of the other team.
And film, and
Yeah,
it's just very different, you know. Um, it happens a lot now. It happens a lot in college football that a team is played twice.
yeah.
If you're a good team, you're gonna get a chance to get your lick back.
I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can trust Carson Beck in this game. The defense for Georgia bailed them out last time, um, and Texas's offense is going to be better prepared than they were. I'm going to go Georgia.
Okay.
I'm going to go
Um,
Georgia to knock off Texas.
I think that's a great prediction. In all honesty, this is probably the biggest game of the season for both teams. Texas is gonna do Texas things. They're gonna keep the game close. But I really like Georgia.
From what we saw last time when these two teams played, the line of scrimmage was just thoroughly dominated by Georgia.
And they
Um,
got to they got to Quinn Ewers.
yeah, and they were able to get to Arch too. I think that defense for Georgia is crazy. I don't know. I just like Georgia on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they're gonna dominate. And if it goes the other way, I really think Texas is gonna have to have their O line play their best game if they want to win.
Yeah, and their defense is going to have to play their best game too.
Yeah,
So
that's their defense can. I think Texas's defense can rise up to the challenge, but there's just something I like about Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. They're just undeniable.
Well, because they've been in this position before.
You know, this is last year. It was Alabama beating them to take them out. Now it is Georgia playing for a first round bye to take Texas out of a first round bye.
Yeah.
You know, I think Georgia's playing with a chip on their shoulder.
Well, because remember they're a two-loss team, so it'd make the scenario kind of harder for them, I guess you could say.
I think they're still in no matter what.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
man, I think I really like Georgia in this game, especially since it's in Atlanta. There's gonna be more Georgia fans there. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
Georgia's my prediction by 3.
By 3. Okay. How about the Big Ten championship? Number 1 Oregon taking on number 3 Penn State.
Penn State's number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a bit silly. Who they beat this year again? Remind me. Nobody.
Yeah, they're number 3.
Oh my goodness, you beat the Kent State Flashes. We're so proud of you. Not beat anybody serious.
I'm gonna keep this short, okay? And I know this was a couple of weeks ago, but the fact that they, in my opinion, got dominated at the line of scrimmage by Ohio State at home says a lot. Give me Oregon, and give me Oregon to cover.
Woo! 3 points, 3.5 points.
Give me Oregon to win by at least 14.
You're right. Give me the Ducks.
What was that?
The duck call.
On the Pat McAfee show. Pat, you're awesome. I think they had the Oregon Duck on their show, and he was mocking. He was doing the Travis Hunter Heisman pose. It was hilarious.
And you know the Oregon Ducks said Ashton Gentry should win the Heisman. Duck knows ball, in my opinion.
But no, give me Oregon big over Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State played against Ohio State, barely lost, but they haven't played anybody the whole season.
Yeah.
Oregon has.
Yeah.
Give me Oregon.
Well, that was quick. So I think Penn State's going to struggle on defense and offense.
It's just so silly that Penn State is favored. That the matchup predictor says they got a 53% chance of winning. That is false information. These guys do not know football. ESPN, who are the people making these things right here? Who are y'all hiring to make that? Like, that doesn't make sense. Penn State's strength of schedule is horrible.
Wait, pull their schedule up.
I have it up right here.
Let's walk through their schedule.
West Virginia, trash.
Not very good.
Bowling Green, trash. They only beat Bowling Green by 7 points.
Hey, A&M only beat Bowling Green by 6.
Kent State, trash. 56-0 Penn State.
Okay.
And I will admit, this is the one good team they played on their schedule besides Ohio State. They played Illinois and they beat them 21-7. They're actually an okay ball club. Illinois is.
Wait, was it at home or away?
I don't. Let me look.
What was that stutter?
It was at home.
Okay.
UCLA, awful.
Awful.
USC, awful, and they struggled to beat them in overtime. Wisconsin, awful.
They're not a bad team.
Well, Wisconsin, bad. They didn't make a bowl game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ohio State, great team. They won against Ohio State, beat them by 7. Washington, not a very good team.
Not very good this year.
Purdue, even worse. 1-11.
They fired their head coach.
Minnesota, they're actually a pretty good ball club. I'm not gonna lie, but they have the most close losses this season, probably. In Maryland, 44-7, trash. They only played one ranked opponent outside of Ohio State.
One ranked opponent outside of Ohio State, and they're ranked 3rd in the country?
Yes.
Yeah, go Ducks.
Yeah, go Ducks.
Let's take a look at Oregon's schedule, okay? So they
Boise State. They played Boise State like when they were really good.
okay. So the Idaho game didn't look very good on them, but they won. Boise State, that's a quality win. Oregon State, not very good. UCLA, not very good. Michigan State, not very good. Ohio State,
Great win.
good. Purdue, terrible. Illinois,
That's a quality win.
yeah, they
I'd say
pretty much
so.
dominated. Michigan, not a
That's I
bad
say
win.
that's yeah.
Maryland, uh, yeah. And then Oregon barely beat Wisconsin.
Washington.
Washington,
That is very
they
good.
basically dominated them. Yeah, Oregon had a better schedule than Penn State did.
They beat 3 ranked teams.
Yeah.
Penn State only beat 1 ranked team. Why are they ranked third in the country? Explain something to me, playoff committee.
That's that's a
Explain.
that's a great question, buddy. So then who do you have next? Clemson or SMU in the ACC championship?
Well, they say SMU's had a really good schedule, really easy schedule, but I love SMU so much. I can't like not support a Texas team.
I like SMU.
I like SMU a lot.
Yeah.
I like Clemson a lot too. These
Yeah.
teams are both
I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm gonna pull a Lee Corso. Um I'm
not so
actually
fast. I'm just kidding.
not wait, hang on. Not so fast, my friends. I'm taking the Clemson Tigers.
Really?
Yep. I'm taking Clemson. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. No, don't do that. That's bad luck.
And they don't need it.
Give me SMU.
You're going SMU? Okay.
I'm going SMU because SMU has been they've been not believed in the whole year. They have been counted out. They have been told they cannot be good. Give me the Mustangs.
How much do they win by, do you think?
A touchdown.
Really? I'm going to go Clemson. Um, frankly, I'm going to go, I think they cover, and I think that they win by 10.
They won't even be in the ACC championship if it weren't for Syracuse. I mean, Kyle McCord. He tries so hard to be the bad boy of college football, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm not trying to be racist here, but he's got to realize he's white. You can't. You're not a bad boy. Who do you think you are? Smoking a cigar after the game. You look like you could be someone's dad. Pretending you're hard. I love your character. I love your swagger. I love your confidence. You're like the Kirk Cousins of college football. Nobody's taking you seriously when you do it.
Oh, okay. That was good. Oh, that was awesome. He just stands there in the backfield.
That's another all-time bit right there. You're the Kirk Cousins of college football. You have the swagger, but everybody makes fun of you for it. Good job, Kyle McCord, for winning that game. But obviously a great quarterback. So
Yeah.
and then we're moving on to the Big 12 championship, and that is ASU versus ISU. Iowa State versus Arizona State. Arizona State really did surprise me. They're projected to finish like near the bottom of the Big 12.
Let me tell you something. Iowa State is legit. They're going to come in angry. They're going to come in winning the game. Give me the Sun Devils of Arizona State.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Give
that.
me give me Arizona State to win the Big 12.
Arizona State has one of the best running backs in the country,
Yeah.
and Cameron Scatterbro.
Yeah.
Scatterbo, I don't know how to say his name. He has lit the college football world on fire this year I'm gonna round up here with 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns. Not to mention his receiving stuff. This ASU offense is deadly.
Holy cow. That's crazy.
This ASU offense is insanely deadly.
Yeah.
Let's look at this dude's receiving yards too. This year he's had combining with his 1,400 rushing yards, he has nearly 500 receiving yards as well and 2 touchdowns.
Jeez.
That is the Christian McCaffrey of college football right now. And I think Iowa State, they've lost 2 games just like ASU has, but ASU has been on fire recently.
Yeah, they beat BYU.
They have been on fire. They cannot be stopped right now.
Yeah.
So, give me ASU and give me ASU big.
Do you think they're gonna cover?
I think they'll cover with the spread being 2 points. Wow. I think they cover. I think they win by 10 points. I'll dial back the tone on the win by big. I say they win by 10.
Gotcha.
And then a game we didn't really expect to be big. UNLV versus Boise State.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A game that means everything for Boise State. And UNLV, they can take Boise State's playoff spot if they win this game.
I was about to say they could be spoilers.
And Boise State is favored by just 4 points.
Dude, like for Boise State, for them, if they're able to win their conference championship and their only loss to be number one Oregon, dude, that's a heck of a resume.
They only lost to Oregon by 3 points.
Gone off all year, and
When you got the best running back in college football, good things are going to happen to you.
yeah, yeah,
Probably one of the best players in college football, not just the best running back.
yeah. Well, certainly still in the Heisman race with Travis Hunter.
And
Yeah.
UNLV, they've been really consistent this year. Really, really nice for them to watch, playing a lot of complimentary football, considering that they lost their starting quarterback halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Due to some NIL issue, which is so stupid.
UNLV is 10-2, so
UNLV could get a playoff spot here.
I think for UNLV though, I think for them to get a playoff spot, they need a win and then they need to get some help. I think they're kind of like in the same boat with Clemson. Yeah, I'm gonna go Broncos. I like
I'm gonna
Boise
go.
State.
I'm gonna go Broncos. I'm gonna go Broncos by 2 touchdowns
Okay.
on the blue field.
I'm gonna go Boise State to win by 10.
Yeah, I like that prediction. And this is another good resume win for Boise State if they can get it done.
Yeah.
And I think they'll get a first round bye.
Mhm. Yeah.
Man, we're
Yep.
approaching the longest episode ever. Playoff bracket.
Mhm.
We'll just briefly mention it. A displeasure I have with it is that Alabama is currently in the playoffs, which whole lot of horse hockey.
Dude, the fact that Miami got eliminated, dude, that's got to be killing Mario Cristobal, man. I mean, they were 9-0, they were a top 4 team, and they just, man, that I feel
Hey,
gotta feel bad for them, but man,
Cam Ward has been the best quarterback in the country next to Shador Sanders. They don't deserve this. Kick Alabama out of the playoffs.
I was about to say
Drop
Alabama, dude, Alabama. Let's see, they lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Tennessee, who's in the playoffs for sure, and they lost to Oklahoma.
Drop your pride, committee. Kick Alabama out of the playoffs.
Like Alabama right now, being in the playoffs,
9-3
they
with horrible losses.
I was about to say they probably have one of the worst, maybe losses.
They lost to 6-6 Vandy.
And they lost to a bad Oklahoma team this year.
Bro, what is your deal?
I don't know, but again, I feel bad for South Carolina getting robbed.
South Carolina is getting robbed.
Dude, legitimately, right? As we speak right now, I think if South Carolina and Alabama met on a football field right now, South Carolina would win.
Yes. Even though they lost earlier in the season, this South Carolina team is so much different than it was at that point in the season.
Yeah, yeah, and given they played each other, but Alabama got really fortunate in that game.
Dude, come on, committee.
Yeah,
Like, we know you love Alabama. Just let some other teams have fun.
yeah. No, South Carolina's losses compared to Alabama's losses, not even.
This committee is horrible.
I don't know, man.
This committee is awful. You need you and folks like you and me on the committee.
Well, and then I saw something too that everyone was surprised that Ole Miss got eliminated. Let's They lost to Kentucky, who wasn't very good
I'm
this
not
year.
surprised that Ole Miss got eliminated.
I mean, they beat Georgia, but they lost to Ole Miss. They lost to
Well,
Florida, and
LSU.
did
Yeah,
they?
Ole Miss lost to LSU.
Oh yeah, they did. They sure did. Yeah,
Poor
yep,
LSU.
yeah. That wasn't a shocker to me.
Do they have brain cells up there in Atlanta, Georgia?
Well, but
Where
they do this every year though. They always seem to leave some teams out of the mix when they really should be in. It's not the first time they've done this.
they deserve it. South Carolina deserves it.
Yeah,
Alabama does not.
yeah.
They have 3 horrible losses.
Well, and quite frankly too, I think Miami really does deserve to be in, even though they lost 2 games. I still think they at least belonged in the top 12, maybe at a large bid.
Give them Bama's spot. Bama is like 11.
I was about to say, even though Miami's schedule may not be as strong as Alabama's, put Miami in still. Alabama's losses weren't very good.
If you want TV, put Cam Ward and the Hurricanes in the playoff. Cam Ward is going to give you good entertainment.
If you were to have Alabama and Miami play right now, um, mm,
I
well,
think it could be really close, but I still think Cam Ward, with how well him and Xavier Restrepo have played, I still think they win.
I still think Miami's defense is questionable, and I think that's kind of been
That's what
their
makes it entertaining. Everybody wants to see an offensive shootout.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. That was a very interesting selection by the committee.
Uh, and the
Anyway,
Heisman race is still a two-person race right now.
yeah,
Um, anything can happen. I think they're gonna give it to Travis Hunter.
I do too.
Um, right now, but
Yeah,
it's actually been impressive that a quarterback is not gonna win the award this year,
I know. I can't remember the last time that didn't happen.
which is awesome. It's great for the sport.
Well, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, we set a record for the longest episode.
Longest podcast episode for talking ball and
Man,
brewing.
you're welcome, Allison. This is your first project.
Yep. Sorry, kid.
Signing out.
See y'all later.